everyone, welcome back to Gracie May's Tarot. So today we have a very cute reading planned. We're going to be finding out what does your future spouse do to make you smile? What are the ways in which they make you smile once you're together with them, or at least when you're dating them? So I was inspired to do this reading because I recently got the Kawaii Tarot deck. I haven't had a chance to play around with this, so this will actually be my first time using it. I'm super excited. It's such an adorable deck, and I thought I have to do a very sweet reading to match the energy of this deck. But yeah, I'm very excited, so I thought this would be a cute little bonus video to do one week. But yeah, so we have 3 groups to choose from today. You're going to choose your group according to whichever oracle card you're most drawn to. So for pile 1, we have Self-Worth, Elevate. For pile 2, we have Calm. And for pile 3, we have Rituals. So take a moment, pause the video if you need to, meditate on the groups. The timestamps are listed below in the description box, just like always, and let's get into it. Alright, pile 1, if you chose the Self-Worth Elevate card, welcome to your reading. So we're going to put this to the side as well as your other 2 oracle cards, and we'll get started with your tarot. So what does your future spouse do to make you smile? How do they make you happy? How do they bring joy to your life? How does pile 1's future spouse make them smile? And like I said in the intro, this could be like when you're dating, once you're married. This could be why you fall in love with them. I'm keeping it pretty open-ended. Honestly, I was just so excited to use this deck. And like I said, I wanted to do a very sweet reading of this deck. It just felt very appropriate. And plus, you all love the future spouse readings, I think, on this channel a lot. I do want to do a career reading this month for July, so I think we'll see how that video does on the channel, and if people like it, I'll start doing more career finance sort of videos. Alright, so let's see, pile 1. How does your future spouse make you smile? How does pile 1's future spouse make them smile? Whoops. I want to, let's see. Let's get 2 more cards. 2 more cards. Oh, perfect. 2 more cards. There we go. Let me just make sure that you can see. Oh yeah, you can see that. Awesome. Okay, so we have the 7 of Swords, we have the King of Swords, the 5 of Swords, the Page of Swords, and the 2 of Coins, which is kind of incredible because I shuffled this deck a lot prior to starting this reading. I feel like one major thing that's coming out right away is that your future spouse is kind of really good at verbally hyping you up. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if your future spouse's love language was words of affirmation, because it really does feel like verbally they tell you everything you need to hear in any given moment. And it feels, you know, it's not superficial like I'm just saying compliments to flatter you or something like that. Like, they just really see your strengths, you know, and they make you feel like you're a winner. Like, they make you feel like you are capable of doing anything. And I think it's because your future spouse presents with this energy of like they're really confident. Like, I think your future spouse comes across like someone who can get stuff done. Like, they come across as a leader themselves. And your future spouse is someone who's very honest, you know? With this 7 of Swords card here, they're not someone who is going to deceive you or betray you in some way. You see how like the little squirrel here It's kind of like hiding knives in the donuts, and so, not knives, swords. They're hiding swords in the donuts. So like masking something like dangerous with something sweet. That's not your future spouse. Like, they're gonna give it to you straight. They're not going to, you know, they're the King of Swords here. They're gonna pull that sword out and they're gonna tell you the honest truth. And I think that's what makes you smile, because my stomach is growling. I ate like so much ice cream today and my stomach is like, why? Like, what is happening here? This is not our normal. So anyway, yes. With the Seven of Swords here, next to the King of Swords, there's so much honesty there. Like, I think your future spouse is a pretty blunt person. So the fact that they tell you things that make you feel good about yourself and you can trust it and it feels authentic and genuine, it makes you smile. It makes you feel really good. Because you know they're not just saying it to say it. You know that when they speak, when they say something, it comes from an honest place. You know, there's genuine intention there. And, you know, they don't just say things to say them. They're carefully measured in their words. And, you know, it feels good. I think it feels good to you. I also think that they are a bit inspiring to you. I think in some ways, if you're someone who maybe tends towards people pleasing, or maybe you like to keep the peace, you tend to be a mediator, you know, maybe find it difficult to express yourself, or you're someone in an argument, like you withdraw, you isolate, you don't like confrontation, you know, that kind of vibe, you know, you don't think it's worth it to engage. I think they help you find your voice, and they help teach you this lesson that sometimes it's better to have more external conflict if it means you have inner peace. You don't want to be at war with yourself. And so they kind of teach you that sometimes confrontation isn't that bad. Sometimes you have to put yourself first, even if it makes other people uncomfortable. And so they also kind of make you smile in the sense that they teach you, because there's a lot here, honestly, about them teaching you things. I feel like your future spouse may be in a place in their life where they're very successful, and in some ways they may even start out almost as like a mentor to you. I know that sounds kind of odd, but I just think that you have a lot of respect for them and how successful they are, and you in some ways are really inspired by them, and you're like, you know, I can learn from this person, which is great. I mean, that's what you want in all your relationships, to learn and to grow across the board. But I feel like your future spouse, again, hypes you up and makes you understand that, like, it's okay to be a winner. Like, it's okay to advocate for yourself. It's okay to push for your desires, your wants, your goals, your dreams. That's okay. Like, if someone else is intimidated by your success, that's their loss. Like, you don't have to dull your shine. You don't have to make yourself small and insignificant for the sake of making someone else comfortable. You know, like, your future spouse comes across as like a very confident, like self-assured person. And so I think that they kind of help you learn that balance between confidence and humility, you know? And I think maybe right now you're a little bit too humble, and so they come in and they help uplift you in that way. That I think is very positive. I also just think that your future spouse is a real comedian. I'm getting a lot of, I mean, we do have the King of Swords here. I'm picking up a lot of Gemini energy in particular, as well as Aquarius. They could also have some Libra placements, but I would definitely say Gemini and Aquarius energy is coming through right now. There's also a little bit of Aries energy here. I don't know if it's just because of the little antlers, but it's kind of reminding me of the ram a little bit. But yeah, a little bit of Aries energy, I would say, as well. I think there's also just something there's something there about your future spouse. As successful as they are, they also have this balance to them, like they work hard to play hard. Like I think your future spouse, when you get to know them, I don't think that everyone gets this side to them, but I think once you get to know them, they have this silly kind of eternal child kind of energy to them. Like I think they have a goofy side. I think they're a real comedian. And I think I think when you don't know them that well, you get kind of the witty, sarcastic side to their humor. But I think the more you get to know them, then you get the lighthearted, fun, playful side to their humor. But they definitely have a great sense of humor. And I think it's gonna surprise you how silly and adventurous and fun they are, because I think maybe when you first meet them you get that more serious side, but that may vary a little bit for some of you, but I do think that there is going to be a shift at some point where you get to know them on a deeper level, and you see, it's kind of funny, like the deeper you get to know them is like the lighter side to them. You know, like it starts off like they seem so serious, and then the more you get to know them on a deeper level, you see their superficial side. It's almost like you get to know them in reverse of like what you would expect. It's kind of funny. They kind of hide that silly side to themselves. Okay, let's get these oracle cards. I think we'll save maybe these towards the end. I didn't want this reading to be super long, so that's why I like pre-pulled some of the oracle. I don't know, I might start mixing it up a little bit. I'm still kind of playing this by ear. You guys can put down in the comments like what your preferences are, if you like a mix or if you like all shuffling on camera. I don't know, I'll probably continue to just do whatever feels right for each individual reading. But I do love shuffling on camera, it's been really cool. I am humble. I am humble. Yes. Well, that's a little graphic. We'll cover that up. But I am humble. I think that's what it is. Like, it's that balance between confidence and humility that they teach you so well. And I think it makes you smile, because I think in a lot of ways you are teaching them that humility and they are teaching you confidence. And so I think it kind of makes you laugh in some ways how different you guys are. You know, I think that your differences will be a source of a lot of inside jokes between you guys. You know what I'm getting a picture of? And it's probably because Johnny Depp is like really fresh in my mind right now from the trial. But there's like this meme of Edward Scissorhands when he's sitting next to Winona Ryder. I forget her name in the movie. And she's kind of like, you know, in pink and looks all girly. And then obviously he looks the way that he does in that movie. And, you know, like that idea of like, opposites attract, you know, like the very girly feminine with, you know, this dark gothic kind of look. I don't know necessarily that that's going to be like exactly how it is in terms of your style, but I think in terms of your energy, it's going to be like a little bit of polar opposites attract. I think it's going to be kind of funny to you guys, because there's this, I think that's why this Gemini energy keeps coming up, because there's this energy of like playfulness and curiosity, like you want to know more about each other because you have this like kind of like childlike curiosity of like, this person's different, let me get to know more. And there's a little bit of like they keep you guessing, you know, they never act how you think that they're gonna act, and you never act how they think you're gonna act. So I think it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of funny, I think, as you get to know each other, how different you are. We have, I do the best that I can. This is so important, because I think some of you have like a real chip on your shoulder, or, you know, just a little bit of insecurity, a little bit of like, you know, what's it called? Like a chink in your armor? What's the appropriate term? A kink in your armor? Yeah, Knight of Swords. Oh, this is the King of Swords, my bad. I don't know why I said knight. I guess because I think of armor. But anyway, I'm all over the place clearly today. Ignore me, you guys. But yeah, I think you guys have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder in terms of your self-efficacy and your competency. You know, I think sometimes you guys doubt yourselves. You think you're not capable. You don't think you can take care of yourself in some aspects, or you think you're not good enough for certain things that you want to do, certain endeavors you want to try. You know, you may have some self-limiting beliefs around that. You think that you can't do something for whatever reason. And so I think your future spouse encourages you a lot. And they let you know, like, it's okay to fail. It's better to fail because you tried than to, it really is true. Like, that saying is very true. It's better to have tried and failed than to have not tried at all. And I think over time you start to understand that trying isn't failing at all. Trying is just practice. And so they kind of teach you it's okay to be a beginner at something. With the Page of Swords to the King of Swords, it's okay to be a beginner at something because at one point in time, I was a page before I became that King of Swords. So if I can do it, you can do it. And so I think they hype you up, and they do it in a very real and grounded way. They're not just saying it to save it. I'm sorry, they're not saying it just to say it. They really, truly believe in you. And so I think that makes you feel so safe and so comforted. And I think it helps you kind of see your own self-worth, see your own value. And yeah, that's going to put a smile on your face. I know that's probably a deeper message than like what we were expecting. And again, there is a lot of fun. There's a lot of joking around. But I think in like a real honest way, they are helping your self-esteem. I mean, they really are. And that's not to say you're not working on this on your own, but people come into our lives to teach us certain things, and we challenge each other to grow. And so, maybe your future spouse can be a little bit arrogant sometimes, and you're going to balance that out with that humility. And maybe sometimes you're a bit insecure, and they're going to balance that out, with that confidence. Pile 1's future spouse, how are they going to make you smile? Also, with the way this Two of Coins is depicted here, I mean, you see how he's like balancing on a ball, and there's the waves, and then this one's juggling on top. There's this energy of your future spouse will put in so much effort into this relationship. I think even very early on, the amount of effort that they are putting into this relationship, into this connection, is going to sweep you off your feet. Like they will do so much just to make you smile. I think if you're feeling really down, really sad, really bad, they think it's their personal responsibility to bring you out of that. And of course it's not, but they take that upon themselves. I don't think you're projecting that onto them. I don't think you're being codependent upon them. I just think that they care about you so much. They can't stand to see you cry, and they'll do anything to make you feel even just a little bit better. Okay, we're gonna get one more card here. Pile 1, what's going on? Of course. We have guarded and we have commitment. I think that your future spouse really wins you over. This feels like, remember when I said they were going to put a lot of effort in? It kind of feels like, and it's not that you're not interested or that you're pushing them away or that you're playing games or something like that in the beginning of the connection. It's not that. I think a lot of this insecurity that we've been talking about, and remember, it's a general reading. For some of you, it's going to be a more severe problem. And for others of you, it's just something a little bit that you got to work on. There's different levels to this, right? But I feel like with this guarded card here, you're not guarded for no reason. Like, this is your past. This is what you've been through. This is the response, you know? Like, when we talk about someone being guarded, it's not a deficit. It's not a personal character flaw or something like that. No, 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 no. And I think, honestly, a lot of you, like, if we're talking about the King of Swords, maybe you're coming through with that Queen of Swords energy, because Queen of Swords can sometimes get a rep of being guarded, okay? And remember, I'm just talking about divine feminine versus divine masculine energy. We're not talking about gender. Have to give that disclaimer every single time. But anyway, so this is a response. Like, if you've had your heart broken, if you've been lied to, if you've been betrayed, if this goes as far back as childhood and you had an inconsistent caregiver, this is a natural, understandable response. Like, why would you put your faith, trust in other people? Why would you outsource your sense of safety and security? Why would you outsource your sense of emotional well-being? Why would you do that? Why would you put your mental health, your emotional health, your physical security, why would you put any of that in the hands of someone else when someone else always drops it? When someone else always hurts your heart? Why would you do that? And so this is a very natural response. It's very understandable. Okay? And I think you're in your head a lot. I mean, we had so many swords cards here. You're in your head a lot. And it's normal. It's normal for you to second guess yourself. It's normal for you to question your intuition. It's normal for you to overthink things because you have this history. And so why wouldn't your heart be guarded? Why wouldn't you be protective over yourself? Why wouldn't you be looking out for yourself? And so I think the biggest smile that your future spouse is going to put on your face is that they are going to patiently wait until you feel safe and secure enough to release that chain, drop that shield, and open up your heart to them. I mean, that's what it is. They're patient. They understand. And even if they have a very different attitude than you do towards opening up, being vulnerable, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They're still willing to be patient, even if they don't always understand, even if they don't have a history like you do, even if they've never known that kind of heartbreak, that kind of pain, that kind of disappointment. Doesn't matter. They still want to be there for you. They still want to be loyal to you. They're still willing to wait. And that's the biggest thing. That commitment, that loyalty, it's enduring. I cannot believe this, that I've been sitting here and talking and talking and talking. You guys may not believe this. You may not believe me right now, but until I was placing down this card and I glanced over, I promise you, I forgot that I was not paying attention at all. I was going on and on and on about how I thought you had a bit of an insecurity. And then you picked the self-worth card. How did I miss that? I'm sorry. I'm just laughing at myself. I have to get up at 4 a.m. for my job because of where I work. And so by the time I sit down to film these readings, if it's not the weekend, it's typically pretty late in the day. And then I have class at night. I do online school and there's a time difference. And there's a 2-hour time difference. So sometimes my classes don't end until 11 o'clock at night. So you can imagine like how tired and like I get a bit silly the more tired I get. Don't worry about me, guys. I'm fine. But I say that to explain why there may be sometimes like I'm missing something very obvious right here. Okay, well, this is confirming we were on the right track with your tarot, right? Geez. Okay. Well, actually, we're going to save that for the end still. Let's look at these 2 oracle cards. We have Tune Into Your Inner Peace. And we have today holds unlimited possibilities to see the beauty in life. Okay. I think that they help you see possibility where you didn't see possibility before. And I think that goes back to when I was talking about you could have some self-limiting beliefs that keep you from going after certain goals that you want to achieve. This could be anything. This could be like a fitness or health related goal. It could be a career goal. It could be as simple as I've always wanted to learn how to knit, but I don't think I would be any good at it. Or I've always wanted to learn Spanish, but I sucked at French in high school, so obviously I would be terrible at Spanish. You don't know that. You don't know that until you try. And so I think that even as simple as like, you know, like some people get really bad anxiety about just going and shopping at a grocery store. And so they do things to avoid having to do that. And so then that could be, you know, maybe a problem in general, in that you don't want to put yourself in social situations, even if it's as simple as going grocery shopping, which, you know, for some people isn't simple. And so things like that, you know, you may limit yourself in some way and think you're not quite capable of doing the things that you wish that you could do. No judgment, by the way. I get my groceries delivered a lot of the time. I know that was like an oddly specific example, but it's true. Like, people do have social anxiety. So I think that they open up sort of the scope of your life in a lot of ways. I think they pull you out of your comfort zone, and you may not like it in the moment. You may even push back sometimes, but I think at the end of the day, if you give in a little bit, I think you'll smile. You know, I think you'll surprise yourself, you know, if they kind of push you to do things that scare you a little bit. You know, and I've had to catch myself with that. Like, no judgment, guys. Like, and a lot of times I'll say like no to a lot of things. You know, I'm an introverted person, it just happens. But a lot of the times if I force myself to do it, I have to admit at the end of the day I had a good time. And so that may be something there where you're more introverted and they're more extroverted. Or maybe they just, you know, they're a bit braver than you in some ways, and so they push you. And again, remember, I do think you're teaching them a lot of stuff too. Don't think this is like putting you in a lower position than them, because I do think they have a lot to learn from you too, especially because we do have a card here of balance. So I do think they have a lot of things to learn from you as well. But this is talking about in what ways they make you smile. Okay, and then we have tune into your inner peace. Tune into your inner peace. I think, honestly, I think you feel very safe with this person. You know, I think that if they are holding your hand or if they are by your side, I think there's something just about their presence, even when they're not saying something to you that's positive or encouraging. Just their presence, I think, makes you feel calmer, makes you feel safer, makes you feel more secure. And makes you feel like you can venture out into the world a little bit more. I mean, some of you guys could be like real home buddies. I'm definitely a home buddy, so I can relate to that energy myself. But just the way that she's holding the world and looking at the world here, I think there's something there about them getting you to literally travel and do things and get out there more. You know, I just think your future spouse is very explorative, and they have that childlike curiosity, and they like to win, and they're a little bit competitive, and they like to get out there, and they like to do things, and I think they're very energetic. And so I think that they, you know, get you out there more, and they get you doing things that you surprisingly enjoy, things that when people say, hey, let's do this, you're like, nope. But then when you actually go and do it, you end up having a really good time. I don't know why kayaking just popped into my head. Could be that your future spouse really loves outdoor activities, but it could be a message for some of you that they're interested in doing things like that. All right, let's see. I guess we'll get a love token to end your reading, and then we'll read your self-care message. And this self-care message I requested, like as I was shuffling the cards, I asked your future spouse's higher self to give you a self-care message that would be helpful to you at the time that you are viewing this reading. That was the very specific question that I asked. Okay, let's get a love token from your future spouse. I just think these are so fun and cute. Okay, we have good for a candlelit dinner. Every time I see this, I'm always like, I wonder if your future spouse is a good cook. That could be a possibility. All right, let's get your self-care message here. We have self-worth, elevate. It says, you get what you believe you deserve. It is time to raise your standards. This reminds me of, if you guys ever watched or read the book, Perks of Being a Wallflower, they have that quote that says, you accept the love you think you deserve. So maybe in the past, that self-image, that self-worth issue maybe caused you to attract or pick partners who were not capable of providing you the love, the care, the nurturing that you deserved. And so you accepted that because it was all that you knew. And over time, as a response to that, you just closed yourself completely off to love. You know, you went into hermit mode and you were like, nope. And that may be why we've been getting this message of you maybe not leaving the house too much, or you staying inside a lot, not wanting to maybe socialize or do certain things that put you in certain social situations. And so your future spouse is coming through and saying, please understand the kind of love that you deserve. Please understand that what you believe you deserve is what you're going to get. So believe you deserve the kind of love that I'm willing to give you, and then you can welcome me into your life sooner. We can manifest meeting sooner. Okay, pile one, this was your reading. Thank you for being patient with my little bit scattered energy today. I appreciate it so much. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Hit the notification bell so you always know when I upload. And let's see what else. What else is in that spiel? Oh, a huge thank you. I've said this before in other videos, but it's still new to me. We have recently hit 1,000 subscribers. A huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting this channel. You guys are so kind and wonderful, and I'm so grateful for all the support that I've been getting and all the encouragement that I've been getting. So thank you so much, and I hope that our channel, our community continues to grow. I wouldn't be able to do this without your support. I'd just be talking to no one. So thank you. I'll see you guys in my next one. Take care, pile one. All right, pile two, if you chose the Calm Oracle card, this is your reading. You also had a second one. Not every group had a second card. You were actually the only one. You also had choice, but we will look at all of your Oracle after we do your tarot. I think we'll look at it at the very end. I think that's how I did it for pile one. I'm filming this on a different day than pile one, so I feel a little bit out of sorts because I don't typically do that, but we'll get it together. All right, pile two. Let's find out how your future spouse will make you smile. Pile two. How will your future spouse make you smile? And this can be like once you're married or when you're dating, when you're getting to know them. I'm leaving it pretty open-ended. Just a cute little reading. I feel like I've been filming like a couple more like serious readings lately, like healing your heart and stuff like that. So I wanted something fun and comforting and lighthearted, so mix up the energy, you know? All right, pile two. How will your future spouse make you smile? Spirit, how will pile two's future spouse make them smile? And your future spouse's higher self is also welcome to come through. And a big thank you to my guides and your guides for coordinating these messages. I'm not gonna flip them in reverse, but I am paying attention. Sometimes I make a, I don't know, sometimes I put them in reverse, sometimes I don't, but either way, it doesn't change how I read the overall energy of the cards because I look at them in the greater context of what else is present. For those who, I'm sure a lot of you have heard me explain that before, but if you're new to the channel, don't worry about that. Let's see, I think I'll get one more card, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So we have the Seven of Wands, we have the Hermit, we have 10 of Wands, we have Ace of Coins, and we have the Judgment card here. It's a very sweet message with the Judgment card because I think with your future spouse, you kind of have this energy of like, what did I do to deserve this person? Like, this is like good karma. Like, to have brought someone as special and as kind and loving as and giving as this person into my life, like, I feel like I've lucked out, you know? Like, what did I do to deserve this person? Is kind of something you kind of ask yourself, like, am I even, because I think sometimes that may be a little bit of an insecurity, like, am I good enough for this person? And not in a sense of like physical attractiveness or like financial status, nothing like that. More of like, this person is so good and so kind-hearted. You know, like, even if you're a really giving person, I just think that you look at your future spouse like, they are so nice, they are so kind. How can I match how giving and how loving they are? Like, how can I possibly match that? But you do deserve them. And so I think when this person comes into your life, if you don't know them already, there may be a little bit of an energy of that in the beginning and something you have to reconcile and understand, like, just because they're very giving and very nurturing and very loving, and that may sometimes make you feel like you're not doing enough, know that they're doing that because they want to, and they're not giving with the expectation of you giving back. That's just how they express their love for you. And so I do think there's a lot here about maybe their love language is gift giving with this Ace of Coins, and I think that may make you feel like they're doing a lot in the relationship and maybe you're not doing quite as much as they are. And I think you may feel, even just looking at the little, I think this is a hamster. I don't know. Maybe it's a guinea pig. I think it's a hamster. The little hamster here on top of this giant gift box and like all the wands coming up. The Seven of Wands kind of talks about being overwhelmed and like fighting something off. It almost feels like sometimes you get a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of gifts that your future spouse gives you, and it makes you smile, it makes you happy, but I think there's also this other energy of you feeling a little bit guilty because maybe they're in a better financial situation than you are and you can't quite match the way that they're giving to you. But I think the message here is that A, you can give in other ways, right? And B, they're not expecting anything in return. Like, them buying you things makes them feel good. Them doing things for you makes them feel good. So your future spouse's higher self is kind of saying like, listen, I'm getting something out of this too. Like, it makes me feel needed. It makes me feel like I serve a purpose in your life. And that's how your future spouse sort of defines their self-worth, for better or worse. You know, like, they kind of measure their value in other people's lives based upon what they can give, what they can do for them. I'm not saying that's healthy, and honestly, it's probably something your future spouse will have to learn to moderate, you know? But thankfully, like, I don't see anything here about you taking advantage of them. If anything, I think you're overwhelmed sometimes by their kindness. But I do think that your future spouse, when they give a lot. And so, you know, I think sometimes, like, yes, of course, like, it makes you smile. That's the theme of the video. But I think also sometimes you have to come in and, you know, kind of remind your future spouse, like, you have more to offer than what you can do and what you can buy for me. And so that just may be something that either you get used to the amount that they're giving to you, or they have to moderate and cut back a little bit, or understand that, like, you know, maybe the amount of like lavish gifts or the amount of things that they offer to do for you may sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming. Now remember, this is a general reading. Some of you may love this about your future spouse, and others of you may like your independence a little bit, and it may make you feel a little bit off kilter, like you feel indebted to them, or like you owe them something. So I think that'd just be something to be mindful of. Okay, now with the Hermit card here, I feel like there's kind of this energy of like your future spouse reserving their light just for people who are very special and near and dear to their heart. Because here's the thing, as much as we're talking about how giving and how loving your future spouse is, it's like they reserve that energy, and they only show this light, they only shine this light to people who truly, truly deserve it. And so I think you're gonna observe in your future spouse's life, they are coming off a bit more introverted, but I think you're gonna observe about them is that you're going to understand that it's not that they give a lot to everyone, it's that they kind of save their resources, they reserve their energy, they reserve their time, their money, their attention, and they allocate it to people who mean the world to them. And I think you are going to be sort of the epicenter of their universe, you know, like you would be the sun and they would be revolving around you. There's this poem, this spoken word poem by Andrea Gibson, and she said, I love you like the moon, like the moon's, what was it? I love you like the planet circled the sun, or I love you like something like that. I love you like the planet circled the sun, I think is the line. Or maybe it was something about the moon. What was it? Anyway, there's that energy of you being at the epicenter of their world. You are the center of their universe. And I think sometimes that makes you smile, that makes you so happy, that makes you feel so loved, so wanted, so desired, so needed. And I think at other times that may feel like a lot of pressure, you know? So, I mean, that's the message, you know, like, and I think also the important thing to remember here with the Hermit card, you know, this is Virgo energy, and I do think Virgos have a tendency to want to help people in practical ways, especially if your future spouse has a Virgo moon. My mom has a Virgo moon, and I would say definitely, like, when she expresses her love, it's more so, let me help you run your errands today, let me help you organize your closet, things like that. So you may find that similar energy from your future spouse. But I would also say with the Hermit and the Ten of Wands here, Virgo energy tends to be pretty self-sufficient. So don't mistake when I'm telling you that you are at the epicenter of your future spouse's world. That means you're at the top of their priority list. It does not mean they are expecting you or holding you responsible for their happiness, okay? Hermit card energy, this is someone who is very self-sufficient. Okay, I don't want you to get that message. As I was speaking, I felt like maybe I was making that a bit murky for you all. But I want to make that very clear. Like, your future spouse is someone who has their own hobbies, their own interests. They can entertain themselves. And that's kind of why I think sometimes you feel like the scales are a little bit off and they're giving more to you than you're giving to them. Because your future spouse is so self-sufficient, I don't think that they really ask or expect too much from you. I don't think that they need a lot. And this, I know, is a really weird analogy, but it just popped into my head. It's kind of like a cactus or like a succulent. I don't know a lot about houseplants, but I know those are pretty like low maintenance plants. So that would be like your future spouse, you know, like they're not like a fussy house plant, like, you know, they don't require too much. You can ignore a succulent for quite a while, I imagine you can ignore a cactus for quite a while and it'll be all right, you know, like it's not gonna die on you. And so there's this energy here of like your future spouse is so good at taking care of themselves and so good at fulfilling their own needs, probably because they've been, you know, on their own for maybe some extended periods of their life. And they've had to rely upon themselves, so they've learned this. They've learned how to carry everything on their own. And so I don't think that they really need too much from you. But I think that's what makes you feel loved at the same time, because you understand this person doesn't need me, but they want me. And that's so much better, you know, that's so much better, that's so much healthier. There's a real like grounded energy in this reading. Like it feels like, it doesn't feel incredibly like spiritual, even though we have judgment here and it does feel like there's an element of divine guidance, but it's just more of like, we're good to each other and we chose each other and we want each other and we work at this every day. And so I feel like that really puts a smile on your face to know that someone is putting in the effort and someone chose you, and it's not a happenstance, it's not an accident of fate. Like this person chose you and this person wants you. And I just think that creates an element there of like safety and security that's really beautiful. All right, I'll stop like going on and on and on. I just think it's so funny that we were talking about gift giving and the Seven of Wands just happens to be illustrated as a gift there. That's so, I just love that. I always think there's something special about the deck that you're called to use for particular readings, and then when you start to shuffle and lay out the cards, you start to say like, oh, okay, like I see why this was the best deck for this particular reading. I see why Spirit called me to use this deck. I don't know, I always love that moment in readings. I think it's so nice. All right, pile 2, how will your future spouse make you smile? What do we need to know, Spirit? Can you give us some more clues, some more clarification? Can you elaborate for us, please, Spirit? Pile 2. How will their future spouse make them smile? Pile 2. Okay, I'm not going to do you guys like I did pile 1 and I totally forgot what their oracle card was. But choice, what I said about choosing, lining up. Okay, we have I hold purity and high esteem. Let's get one more. You guys, something funny. Hold on. Let me get this card out and I'll tell you. It says, I honor virtue. Okay, don't laugh at me in the comments. But you see how she's standing and the way her arms are and the fact that she's colored green? Tell me she does not resemble a cactus. Like, she resembles a cactus to me. That's so funny. But I hold purity and high esteem. To me, this lines up so well with the Hermit card. Like, your future spouse just has this innocence to them. Like, they just have these good, honest, pure intentions towards you. Like the doves, like they're so peaceful, they're so soothing. Like, you know, they're not looking to argue, they're not looking to be combative if there's a disagreement. Like, I think even when you're mad or frustrated with this person, your future spouse, I think even in those moments, there's still such, like, you can't help but laugh. Like, you can't help but smile. Like, I think you could even be, like, even if you're not someone who yells, even if you're so angry that you're yelling, I think even just a look on their face, or like something they would say, or just something about their energy, like you would just catch yourself and just start laughing. Like, there's just something there about even when you're upset, they know how to bring you back down. They know how to bring you back into this alignment. Like, they kind of make you feel silly for even overreacting. in that way. And that's not to say that they disregard your feelings, but I think some moments where you may be, you know, unnecessarily getting, moments when you feel okay, I'm struggling to put this into words. You know how sometimes you get triggered into anger, and you know that what you're mad about and your reaction to what you're mad about is disproportionate to the actual circumstance. Like, you know you're overreacting. I think in those moments, those particular moments, those heated moments, your future spouse is able to bring you back to center. And there's just something so pleasant about them. And I think, again, like, they would just tell a stupid joke, or just the way that they would look at you, like the look on their face. I don't think you get mad at this person very often, not at all. And I think if you did, it may be something small and insignificant. And like I said, you would maybe, after some self-reflection, be like, you know what, actually I had a hard day at work and maybe I was taking it out on them. Something like that. Because honestly, I just don't get a vibe that you guys argue too much. Not really. Like, you may joke and fuss around a little bit, but in terms of like serious disagreements, I don't think there's a lot of that here. And I think it's because your future spouse is just, their energy almost kind of comes across like they're in this meditative state. Like, they have this cool detachment to them. And it's, again, like, they're very warm, they're very loving, but I think that they're just able to disconnect, like, really, really well. And I think they can be really objective. I think they can be really compassionate. I don't know, it's just this person really balances their emotions and their logical, rational side, their intuitive side really well. Like, they just seem like they know who they are. They take accountability and own their decisions. And if you disagree, all right, let's talk about it. But they just don't seem, I don't know, they just don't really seem like a lot phases them. And I think they always try to see the good with this honor virtue. They always try to see the good, and they always try to be better than who they were yesterday. And so it's almost like you can't really get too mad at them, because you can tell that they're always trying. And I don't know, it's like you could be so mad at them, but then they just take accountability. Like, you don't have to push them into it. They like, I own it. You know, like, this isn't someone who has any problem apologizing or anything like that. And they see the good in you too. I think that's another thing, is that they always assume that you're acting with good intentions too. You know, they don't see the worst in people. You know, sometimes people will interpret your actions or your words always in a negative context, you know? Like, some people just like to argue, or they think that everyone else is self-serving, and that's usually because they themselves are self-serving and they're projecting that outwards. But your future spouse acts with such good intentions. And remember how I said they had this kind of innocent energy? I think that's where a lot of this comes from, is that they just see the good. And so they just assume everyone else is acting from the same strong moral compass that they are, and that's not necessarily the case. But, you know, I do think you benefit from that dynamic. You know, I think that even if you did something wrong, I think they would have a hard time believing that you did it on purpose to hurt them, or there was some sort of malicious intent, you know? Like, I think they would absolutely be very quick to defend you, because as peaceful as they are, they also have this protective energy about them. You know, like, I think they would, you see kind of how this almost looks like an eye, and there are like these kind of like bars, like temples over the eyes, and then she looks pretty apathetic, right? Like, pretty bored. It's almost like no one can really convince this person, your future spouse, like, no one could ever say a bad word about you and convince them that it's true. Like, it doesn't matter who was speaking, even if it was a family member or a close friend. they wouldn't want to hear it. Like they just, you know, and it's not that they don't see who you are. It's just that they see you in the best light possible. You know, there's a little bit of a rose-colored image here, like a little bit, but they just choose to see the best in you. And it's not that they think that you're perfect, but it's just that they believe that you're acting from that same place of goodwill that they are, you know, and you're their partner, so they're going to protect you, and they're not going to let anyone else's opinion of you discolor their perception of you. And this is a much deeper reading than what I had planned, and pretty different than pile one. We started off in a very grounded energy, and I think we're moving more a little bit into the spiritual, but I mean, whatever messages come through. Like, sometimes with these readings, it's very interesting, like, where they take a turn. All right, pile two, your future spouse's higher self. How will they make you smile? Sorry, I'm stuttering over my words a little bit more. I will say, like, it is harder to pin down your future spouse's energy compared to pile one. I think your future spouse is just a really unique individual. Yeah, there's something very like a bird. Like they're hard to pin down. We'll get one more card, I think. So we have differences, we have freedom, and we have self-worth. Now with this freedom card, remember how I said, like, depending upon your personality watching this reading, sometimes you may feel stifled if you feel like your future spouse is giving and doing so much for you that maybe at times it could feel overwhelming. Again, depending upon your personality, some of you may love that. So with this freedom card here, I think that you kind of see how, like, the little sparkles here by the cage kind of gives me this energy that your future spouse, remember we did pick up on them being, like, financially well off. There's this element here of your future spouse, like, being willing to build you and create for you the most beautiful, dazzling home possible. Yet, they keep the door open. They keep the cage open, right? Like this cage here, sparkling, pretty, seems like a nice cage. It's a home for these birds, right? But the door is open. They can leave, but they know the safety and security of that home will always be there. They can always come back to it. It's always there waiting for them. It's not going anywhere. But they've still been given the gift of freedom as well. So I like to have that reassurance. You know, like if you were worried a bit, like, oh, I don't know, like having someone do and give me so many things, that could be like, you know, a bit restrictive, you know, like I don't want to feel like I owe somebody something, or, you know, like I said, just that overwhelming kind of feeling. But I like to have that reassurance here because it's telling us as much as your future spouse is willing to give, they're also willing to keep that door open. You know, they want to, if what you need is freedom, then they'll give that to you too. You know, like if you need space, they'll give that to you too. It's all about you verbalizing it though, because with this differences card here, I do think your personality is very different to your future spouse. And it may be that you have maybe some similar tendencies, but you're sort of like the reflected, sort of like mirror image of each other. So like an Aquarius and a Leo together, you know, like something like that, where you're maybe opposite zodiac signs. You're made from the same stuff, but the actual qualities get projected in very different ways. You know, like Aquarius thinks about the collective, Leo thinks about the self. Both are very confident, but the energy's projected in very different ways. Something like that. But I do feel like as long as you're communicating what you need, that's the key, right? Like to have them continue to make you smile, you have to communicate what you need. And if your needs change or evolve over time, let them know, because they're never trying to close the door. You know, they're never trying to keep you. They don't want the home to feel like a cage. They just want it to feel like a home. And so you just have to let them know. And I think maybe for some of you, remember in the very beginning, we were talking about maybe sometimes you feel like you don't deserve this person, like they're too good for you, like too morally good, like just too sweet, too loving, too giving. Like you almost feel like you're taking advantage of them, even if you're not trying to, just because they're giving so much. And so I think that's a little bit of a lesson for both of you. Like, you need to learn how to, FedEx is like ringing my doorbell. You need to learn how to accept love, receive love, right? And that can come in many different forms, whether it's gifts, praise, them doing nice things for you, etc., etc. They need to learn that their self-worth is not dependent upon what they can give and what they can do for other people. So I do think maybe there's a little bit of a karmic lesson here. And I know people are like, oh my God, a karmic relationship. It doesn't have to be that extreme. It's just something that you're both learning from, you're teaching each other something, and you're probably clearing maybe some generational karma there. You know, maybe that's a repeating pattern in your family. Maybe you were taught that from a young age, you know, something like that. I think you're both learning a very valuable lesson, you know, as a result of this marriage, which is beautiful. Okay, let's look at your oracle cards now. I think we'll look at these two first. We have your soul whispers love, your ego shouts fear. And we have trust your intuition, she's always right. This sense of intuition, like this sense of connection, I think your future spouse really helps you feel like there's no need to second guess yourself. There's no need for you to doubt yourself, you know? Like, if it feels right in your heart, it feels right in your heart. And I think a lot of it comes from you feeling like you chose really, really well in this connection, feeling like I chose the right partner, I chose the right person to spend the rest of my life with. And I kind of feel like it boosts your confidence a little bit in your decision-making ability. You know, it makes you feel like you can trust your own choices. And I also think, like, in terms of how your future spouse makes you smile, I feel like that reassurance they give you, because I do think with the Hermit card, they're very, very wise. They're so wise. So I think that they give you, and it's not advice like telling you what to do, but I do think they give you really good words of wisdom that I think is really helpful to you. I can't remember if it was this reading or a different reading where that message came up. That message came up before. I can't remember if it was a different future spouse reading or if it was pile one, but I've delivered that message before to someone. Okay, and then we have your soul whispers love, your ego shouts fear. That ego shouts fear. Some of you may be a little bit, at the time of this reading, some of you may be a bit resistant to love, or even if you want to be in a relationship, if you're being honest with yourself, are you standoffish when people approach you? You know, do you have trust issues? Are you very guarded? Are you maybe difficult to approach in a social setting? You know, things like that. Is there something about your energy that is kind of repelling people from getting to know you and making a first move or making a romantic gesture, or, you know, is there something about your energy that would prevent a crush from talking to you, you know, and flirting with you and that kind of thing? I think there's something about you protecting yourself and you not wanting to repeat past mistakes, or your ego wanting to keep you safe from heartbreak, your ego sort of acting from that fear-based place of, well, if we don't open up to love, we won't get hurt, you know? And so I feel like when this person comes in, there is sort of this element of the ego is quieted, you know, like, you know, sort of that soothing of the ego, like a crying baby, like, it's okay. Like, I hear you, it's valid, but it's okay, we're safe now. Because there's something about your future spouse's energy that kind of just feels like a cool breeze from the ocean on a hot day. And I know that sounds like, what? But I tell you, like, your future spouse is quirky, because this is a very odd reading. Like, this is such an odd reading. I think there's a little bit of, how do I put it? I think your future spouse is a bit poetic, and I think that some of the things they say to you, like, at times you're like, that was really corny. And then at other times, it's so charming and sweeps you off your feet. And I think, like, the way they make you laugh is very disarming, because there's this, like, quirky sweetness to them. But there's also this, I can take care of myself, I got this, I don't need anybody. Like, they kind of have, like, both energies to them, so it's kind of, I don't know, they're just your future spouse is a little bit of an odd duck, but I'm loving their energy. Like, they're such a unique person. I feel like they're gonna have so many cool life stories to tell you. Like, I feel like they've been through some pretty wild experiences in their life. Yeah, I just feel like even your future spouse is the type of person, like, they could have been through the most awful, traumatic period of their life, and they would still find a way to relay that to you in a way that was funny. Like, even in the darkest of moments, they can find humor in this situation. I think there's, like, a dark, sarcastic kind of side to their humor, which is really at odds with how sweet their, like, essential nature is. They're just, I don't know, they're so funny. Like, there's something that is just so different. And I know you watching this are like, what is this reading? Like, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of struggle to put it into words, and it feels like your future spouse's higher self is kind of tickled by that. But yeah, you'll understand what I'm talking about when you meet this person. But there is, I think, some soul recognition here with Judgment. Like I said, there is an element of, like, this being a divinely guided union. But even that seems like a little bit of a paradox, because there's this spiritual element to it, but it does at the same time feel so grounded, and like a lot of free will is going on here. So I don't know. It's just, bear with me, because it's just an interesting energy here. I won't keep going on and on about it, though. All right, let's look at your oracle cards. So we have Choice and Calm. So these are, I should clarify, these are advice cards from your future spouse's higher self at the time of watching this reading. So these are self-care wisdom cards. It says, worry less about making the right choice and more about being strong enough to handle any outcome. And then we have, a breakdown is often followed by a breakthrough. Remain calm. Some of you are going through quite a tough time. Quite a tough time. Some of you are maybe agonizing over a decision. Some of you are trying to manifest your future spouse, and you're worried, like, is this decision going to bring me closer to meeting them or further away? Like, should I stay? Should I go? You know, some of you are just really agonizing over something right now. And remember, I said I felt like your future spouse has lived a very experienced life. Like I feel like they have learned a lot of wisdom from experience. And so I think that's why pile two. I think that's why pile two, you got 2 oracle cards and not just 1. And you also got some very good advice. Like, this is solid words of wisdom here. Worry less about making the right choice and more about being strong enough to handle any outcome. That reminds me of the Strength card in tarot, right? There's a reason why there's an infinity symbol depicted upon the Strength card. That's Leo energy. Your inner strength is infinite. You can always call upon your inner light. And I think your future spouse has learned that for themselves, because represented by the Hermit here, they've pulled the light from themselves and they carry it with them. And that light gets them through the night, gets them through the darkness, gets them through the uncertainty, through the clouds, the murky waters, you know. I love how this looks like both the ocean and the sky. As it, you know, the thoughts, the emotions, nothing can cloud this light. This inner light, this inner strength will get me through, even if I'm having anxiety, even if my emotions are debilitating me right now. I can get through. I can call upon my inner light. They just want you to trust yourself. They want you to trust yourself. And they also want you to sort of work in tandem with the universe here. They're like, anything that happens is like, anything that happens to you is happening for you. Like anything, any outcome that occurs has only been given to you because you are strong enough to handle it. And it wouldn't be given to you if you weren't capable of overcoming it, of seeing it through. You got this. And even if that perspective seems overly optimistic, it's better to have that faith than to have nothing at all. Because you can't change your circumstances regardless, right? You can only change how you're responding to them. So you may as well have faith. And if you can't have faith in the universe, at least have faith in yourself. And if you can't have faith in yourself, you certainly can't have faith in the universe, because you and the universe are connected. You are one. Like, it all comes together here. So yeah, I think that even just the way that these are both like repeating kind of green tones, it's just sort of like soothing your heart chakra. Like, you know, there's this they're giving me this image of like your heart constricting. Like, they want you to be a bit lighter, you know. They don't want you to be so serious. And it's kind of funny coming from them, because I think they're deeply self-reflective. But I will say about your future spouse, sometimes I think they're better at disseminating these words of wisdom than maybe doing it for themselves all the time. I will say that about your future spouse. But you know, no one's perfect. So that message did come through. And honestly, I think it came through because they're so humble and they can admit that themselves. They would probably tell you openly, like, oh yeah, like, I give better advice than like what I do for myself sometimes. Yeah, okay. Let's get a love token from your future spouse's higher self, and then we'll end your reading. All right, pile 2, love token from your future spouse. We got good for a very long cuddle. I told you, your future spouse is so sweet. Like, this little animal here, I think it's supposed to be a little like snow leopard or something. Just looks precious. Like, I just want to pinch its cheeks. Your future spouse may have like adorable dimples, but yeah, they just like, you just want to squeeze them like a teddy bear. Like, they're so cute. But yeah, I think your future spouse is very adorable, pile 2. So this was your reading. I know it was all over the place. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Hit the notification bell so you always know when I upload. A huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel, and I will see you guys in my next one. Take care. All right, last but not least, if you chose the Rituals card, welcome to your reading. We're going to save this and your 2 oracles for the very end of your reading. We're going to start with your tarot. So pile 1 and pile 2 were pretty different. And the messages for pile 2 definitely got a lot deeper than what I had intended. So I'm kind of curious, pile 3, to see how your reading goes. Pile 3 is usually my wild card group, so we'll see. All right, pile 3. How will your future spouse make you smile? Pile 3. Now this can be when you're dating, when you're getting to know them, when you're married. I wanted to keep it pretty open-ended. And pile 3, your future spouse's higher self is welcome to enter the chat. And let's see, a big thank you to my guides and your guides for coordinating these messages. All right, pile 3. Your future spouse, how will they make you smile? Pile 3, your future spouse. How will they make you smile? This is already like telling a pretty clear story with just 2 cards. I think your future spouse is really talkative. They are very chatty. And I can't stop smiling. They are so, they have a very happy-go-lucky kind of excitable energy, like you know when you were a kid and you got really excited to go, I'm saying a kid, as an adult, I get really excited to go to like an amusement park and ride roller coasters, like that kind of energy, like I'm just so excited, you know, like I can't sleep because I'm so excited. That kind of energy. I think your future spouse kind of approaches life like that. They're just coming through as very energetic, very happy, very optimistic. We'll move this here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we have the Knight of Wands, we have 6 of Wands, we have the Moon, we have 2 of Cups, and the World. They are absolutely a fire sign, either in their sun, their moon, their rising, their Venus, their Mars. They have multiple houses in like the 1st house, the 5th house, the 9th house. So that's Leo. Those are the houses associated with Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. And those are all the fire signs in the zodiac. Those are definitely somewhere in their birth chart, okay? Like they present with very strong fire sign energy, and they really do. There's something about the way that they put a lot of effort into everything they do, but it's with a smile on their face. And so I think it kind of amazes you, like how they'll offer to do something for you, or even without you asking, but the way that they do it, like they don't make you feel like you owe them something. You know, they're just happy to do it. They're happy to help. And there's this energy of them liking, okay, your future spouse, I say they don't make you feel like you owe them anything, and they don't expect anything for you to do anything in return. But I feel like your future spouse is someone who kind of lives for the applause a little bit. Like they're a little bit of a show off, okay? They got a little bit of bravado to them. They're a little bit cocky, a little bit confident, you know, and so they like to hear that praise. It kind of reminds me this dynamic, and pardon me for this example, but on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Lisa, not Lisa Vanderpump, Lisa Rinna. I prefer Lisa Vanderpump, but Lisa Rinna and her husband, Harry. Yes, her husband, Harry. He does so much. Like he started, like I think his own greenhouse, or this like really huge garden in their backyard during the pandemic, started growing their own vegetables and like created this whole gardening system. I don't know a lot about gardening, but he created like a pretty elaborate garden, From my understanding, he does like all the cooking and he's a great cook. But if you watch their dynamic, Lisa Rinna is always hyping her husband up. Like, she's always going on and on about how great he is at everything. He can do anything. He's so smart. He's so talented. He's so good at everything. She doesn't want to have to do it. Like, she doesn't want to do the gardening. She doesn't want to do the cooking. And so it's kind of this funny dynamic of like, they don't mind doing those things, but they want the positive feedback. They want the applause. They want the compliments. They cook you a nice meal. They want you to tell them, this is the best spaghetti I've ever had in my life. Like, they want you to say that, you know? And so it's kind of this cute little energy. It's a funny dynamic. Like, you are kind of like their hype person, and they will give you the world. Like, they will give you the world. Like, they want to do everything for you because they live for that. Like, they love that. And so it's funny, with the Two of Cups, we think about an equal, balanced, healthy, harmonious relationship. And that's what this is. It's just not what you would expect. Like, we would expect with the Two of Cups, like, okay, you took the trash out, so I'm gonna do the dishes, like in a very practical way. Like, you did this thing, so I will contribute this. You know, you cook the meal, I'll wash the dishes. That's not how this goes. Like, it's still equal give and take, but what you are giving to them is verbal affirmation, which is how they like and expect love to be expressed. And they are providing you acts of service because they think that's how they can show their love best. So they expect you to kind of, you know, fluff up. I'm sorry. Tripping over my words. They expect you to fluff up their ego a little bit, and you, I think, kind of like being taken care of a little bit. You kind of like being pampered a little bit. You don't want to be responsible for taking out the trash and doing all that. I don't think you really want to do all that. Like, and honestly, at the time of watching this reading, you may be living on your own and totally independent, but I think when they come in and they start just doing everything, I think you're gonna get like a little bit spoiled with it. Like, you're gonna get used to it, and then you kind of just expect them to do it because they don't seem to mind. They do it with a smile on their face, and if all they want is praise, you're like, well, that's easy. Like, so that's what it really is. I think they set the tone for this, though. Like, I think they are the ones who initiate this dynamic. And, you know, you're happy to tell them, yeah, you're the best at it. You're so great at this. You're doing an awesome job. Thank you. And they'll be happy to continue to do, you know, most things. I'm not saying they're going to do every single little thing around the house, but I think like big things like, you know, like cooking's a pretty major part of like household responsibilities, right? I think they would be responsible for, you know, some major things that have to be done within the household on like a daily basis. I also think your future spouse has this energy to them where they like to explore, and they're a little bit restless, and they're pretty extroverted, and so I think that I think they keep the spark going, you know? Like, I think there's a lot here about passion, because even in the uncertainty, right? Like, the moon card is, you know, uncertainty. Things are unsure. We don't know how it's gonna, unsure. Things are uncertain. We don't know how it's gonna play out. They're still dancing, right? Like, they're on this tiny little branch. This lobster or crawfish, whatever it is about to snap their toes. There's all this water, right? All this emotion just roaring beneath the surface here. There's this moon, but they're dancing in the light of the moon, and they're happy and carefree. And I think if you tend to be someone who worries a lot, and you're anxious, and you have insomnia, and your mind is always racing, go, 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 to be with someone who is more action-oriented and more connected to their physical body, and someone who just goes for it and doesn't overthink it, doesn't second guesses, kind of lives from their heart space, lives from their gut. I think that's very like healing, like to have that different perspective to come through. Like I think they put a smile on your face because they get you out of your head a bit. Like, you know, like if you have a tendency to overthink, I think that they I think they challenge you in that way. I really do. And look at the sun here. Like, there's such an exuberant energy, you know? Like, your future spouse is so connected to their inner child. Like, they have a goofy side to them. You know, every pile, I think, has had something about the future spouse having a good sense of humor, but every pile's had a different vibe. I think your future spouse and, like, their sense of humor is really goofy, really playful, really, like, you can't help but laugh because it's just so, like, it just sort of brings about almost like this childhood nostalgia. And I don't know how to explain that. Maybe they make some pop culture references or jokes, things that maybe you would hear, like, in high school. I don't know, but there's just something there about their sense of humor, having this playfulness. And I think they tease you a little bit too. I think there's a nice like banter going on here. I think they like to tease you a little bit, which is funny because they're so like their ego is so huge. Like you know, like they need so much reassurance, but then they're over here teasing you. It's kind of funny. You know, like they kind of remind me of the dad on Jane the Virgin. He's such a Leo. He's like textbook Leo. He's the actor. He's in like the telenovelas. I haven't seen Jane the Virgin in so long. I didn't end up finishing the show. I didn't watch the very last season, and I'm so bad about doing that. I'll watch a show and then just drop off, not even finish like the very last season. It's like, seriously, I don't know why I do that. But if you've seen that show and you've seen that character, your future spouse has kind of a similar energy to that. They're just so lovable. Like, they're so ridiculous sometimes. There's a fire truck going by, so fire sign. I'm gonna start using that as fire sign confirmation. But anyway, I'm sorry for the noise. But I think there's like this ridiculousness to your future spouse that is just humorous. I don't even think sometimes they're trying to be funny, but it's like, you are so ridiculous right now. You're being so dramatic. You're being so theatrical about just nonsense. Like, you know, I think it's kind of cute and endearing to you that they kind of present with this kind of, like I said, this bravado, but really they're just wanting and craving that reassurance. And the fact that they hold your opinion in such high esteem, I think is going to be very sweet to you, but I think it's also going to be something to be mindful of, because you don't want to get into this dynamic where, you know, you do feel like you're responsible for feeding their ego. And so I think, you know, every relationship comes with lessons, and so I think that would just be something to be mindful of, you know, because I think that's something they have to work on a little bit. But it's also what makes them so lovable and so fun and funny and connected to the inner child. So, you know, they need to moderate that, but they definitely don't need to change who they are, because that would change this light that they have. That would change, that would change their essential nature, you know, like why you fall in love with them to begin with. I also kind of feel like your future spouse may be a lot different than the type of person you typically date. I kind of, there's this energy of like your future spouse themselves, like who they are as a person is not only not your usual type, but outside of your comfort zone. Like, I think there's something about that bravado and that that exuberant, energetic, hard to pin down kind of energy, like that I want to have fun. Like, I think there's something about that initially makes you a bit nervous. Like, how do you control a fire? Well, you kind of don't. Like, you know, like the fire is meant to spread. Like, the fire is meant to scatter its warmth. Like, that's just what it is. You know, like, it's not... You don't have that same safety that you would have with like a water sign. Like, water can be contained, it can be altered. You know, air and fire, that's just a harder energy than water and earth, you know. Ooh, I've never even seen this card come out before. It says, I listen to the opposing opinions. And it says, I honor animals with reverence. Okay, your future spouse is a huge animal lover. I'll just go ahead and say it. Like, this card is pretty direct. I think your future spouse has a pet or has multiple pets that they love so much. And they're probably like I am, and they probably talk to their pet a lot or do voices for their pet or just do like... I think there's something about the way they interact with their pet or their pets that really makes you smile. You know, like it's very endearing. So, you know, they would maybe call themselves like a pet parent, you know, like I'm a dog dad or I'm a cat mom, you know, like I think there's something there about, you know how, for example, this is a better example. I might cut out the other example. If you see a weird time jump in this video, it's probably because I decided to cut out what I just said because I thought of a better example. When I hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I named this channel after my cat because I love her. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to buy myself a deck of tarot cards to celebrate this occasion. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, Gracie's got to get something too. This is her win too. Like, this channel is named in her honor. And her, you know, like, where would we be without her cat cameos? So I bought her this like ridiculous cat scratch house. It's like a donut shop from Target. It's so freaking cute. But I'll actually try to link it in the description box. Not sponsored by Target or anything, but if you guys are curious what I'm talking about, I'll put it in the description box. But anyway, so something like that. Like, I think your future spouse has that energy with their pet where, like, you know, they treat their pet like their child. You know, they treat their pet as good as they would treat, you know, themselves, and they treat themselves very well. Like, your future spouse is up on their self-care, you know, like they know the importance of putting themselves first, you know, like nobody else is gonna put me first. If I don't put myself first, I can't give to other people. If I haven't taken care of myself, you know, like your future spouse understands that, knows that, gets that. But I think that the way they interact with their pet makes you see their softer side and makes you see past that bravado. And I think they're very goofy and sweet with their pet or their pets if they have more than one pet. And I think that is part of what really wins you over and makes you fall in love with them. And with I listen to opposing opinions, here's the thing. Is like, maybe as fragile as your future spouse's ego can be at times, again, at times, you know, like they love the positive reinforcement. They love it. They love to feel successful. They love other people to perceive them as successful. Their public image is very important to them. But that doesn't mean that they are stubborn or that they're unwilling to take advice from other people or that they're unwilling to hear somebody else's side of the story. You know, like they're not arrogant in that way. You know, like they're not closed-minded at all. In fact, quite the opposite, because they have a little bit of that Sagittarius energy coming through. Like they are absolutely willing to hear somebody else out. They are willing to think about things on a deeper level from a more worldwide collective view. And I think that's maybe, you know, what makes your future spouse unique and not just caricature. Why can't I say that today? Anyway, whatever. So that's what makes your future spouse multi-dimensional. It's what makes them a person, what makes them human. So I think that's a really good energy, and I think that's something that makes you smile a lot, is that we are getting an energy here that you are a bit different than your future spouse. I think that you really appreciate how much they value your words, your opinion, what you have to say about something, they hold in very high regard. And I don't think you've ever been listened to or heard like that before. You know, like, they are really listening to understand. They are not listening to respond or to argue. And I think that makes you feel so loved. Okay, let's get some love oracle cards here. Sorry, there's a loud truck. It's so dead quiet, and then when I sit to do a reading, it's like the whole neighborhood comes alive. All right, pile 3. Pile 3. How will your future spouse... Okay, this is wanting to come out. Like, I don't... We'll get one more card here. Okay. I'm sorry. We've got confusion, rejection, and strings. Did you all come from that reading I did? Gosh, what... I think it was the first impression of your future spouse reading that I did. No, it was your future spouse's first impression of you. And I want to say it was pile 2. I could be wrong. But there was like this wild reading about them being a bit like their future spouse being the chaser, and the viewer being the person who was chased. And pile 2 in that reading, I believe it was pile 2, they kind of rejected their future spouse, and it was like the more they rejected their future spouse, the more their future spouse kept trying to win them over. And it was a bit like a cat and mouse kind of dynamic. And it was like their future spouse had their fun, you know, had never really tried at long-term commitment before. And so pile 2 was looking at their future spouse like they were a bit of a player, you know, or not someone they could trust, or, you know, just not someone they would, you know, typically talk to. I think maybe you came from that group, because I think there's a lot about... This was a journey, like, for you guys to get together. And I think that I kind of feel like sometimes you look back on that and you're kind of confused as to how you could have missed this person's light. You know, like, how could I have misjudged this person? Like, how could I not have seen that they really have a heart of gold beneath that, like, superficial outer layer of, like, you know, arrogance or confidence or bravado, like, depending upon your perception, like, how you would view that. You know, like, how could I have misjudged them? Because I think maybe in the beginning you kind of think your future spouse is a bit, especially because they're so chatty, you know, and they may like to talk about, like, very lighthearted things. You know, they may like to just talk about TV shows and, like, celebrity gossip, or, like, you know, I don't know. You know, they may like to keep conversation very light, because they're protecting that ego, right? They're not going to be vulnerable and talking about deeper topics, you know, in the beginning. And so, you know, maybe you kind of discount how smart your future spouse is, or maybe you don't see that they're actually a very generous person, or you think there's not much to them beyond how like physically attractive they are. You know, you think it's all surface level with them, and I think when you look back on it, you're really confused as to how you misread them so badly. You know, like, how did I not see the treasure that was in front of me the whole time? Like, how did I misjudge them so much? How did I not see that they were the one for me this whole time? Like, how did I not see that this was the divine plan? Like, how was my intuition this off? And I think the message here is like, it was always meant to be that way. You know, like, your future spouse needed to be knocked down a couple pegs. Like, yeah, like, that needed to happen. And, you know, it was good for them. It was good for their ego to be put in check. That was your function. And so I think your future spouse's higher self is like, listen, like, it was for the greater good. Don't worry about that now. And don't harbor any guilt about that, because your future spouse isn't harboring any resentment towards you about it. You know, they're like, yeah, like, I get it. You know, like, that, you know, with my past being what it was, you know, without, you know, me being like, you're right, like, I was never in a serious commitment. You're right, like, maybe you are right to be doubtful that you can trust me. Yeah, sure. You know, it reminds me of Phoebe, and I don't remember the character's name, but he was played by Paul Rudd on Friends. And there's this episode where Ross accidentally tells Paul, I wish I could remember the character's name. He accidentally, if you guys know, put it in the comments because it's going to drive me nuts. He accidentally tells Paul, Phoebe has never been in a serious relationship, or has never been in a relationship that lasted longer than a couple weeks, you know, whatever it was. And that makes him so nervous. And before, he was, you know, really into her. But when he found that out, he was like, oh, you know, like, is this someone I can trust? Is this someone who's going to want to, you know, commit? And then Phoebe kind of had the reverse of that later on when she found out he never wanted to be married after getting divorced. And so, like, they had moments where they had to work through stuff like that. But, you know, Phoebe was also really confident. And Phoebe kind of seemed like a bit spacey, you know? She was definitely, like, would say things that would seem a bit odd, you know? She had very Aquarius energy to me. I wouldn't peg her as a fire sign. But, I think your future spouse has kind of that similar energy where maybe you wouldn't, your future spouse is kind of like one of those polarizing people, like you either love them or hate them, because they have that big personality, they have a strong personality, they have a personality that fills up the room, you know, people know when they enter a room. So I think you kind of have a little bit of guilt about maybe judging them for their past and the fact that they, you know, you are their first committed relationship. And so it's not that, you know, maybe you made some assumptions about them, like, oh, they're gonna be a cheater, you know, stuff like that. You know, they would be a liar, they can't be trusted. And I think when you find out exactly how trustworthy they are, exactly how loyal they are, you know, I think you feel a little bit of guilt about that. And you may even feel like you manipulated them a little bit, even if you weren't intending to encourage them to chase after you. You may feel a little guilty about it later. And their future spouse's higher self was coming through and saying no. Like, don't feel bad about it at all. That was something that you guys were meant to go through together, and it was for the highest good, so don't worry about it. I know that's a little bit of a different message than like what the intended topic was for this video, but that kind of seems to be a running theme through the piles. And, you know, like, it is what it is. Like, if that's what Spirit wants to say today, we're gonna honor that. If that's what your future spouse's higher self wants to say, we're going to honor that. Okay, let's look at your oracle. We have allow unlimited abundance, and we have nourish your body with high vibing energy. Okay. These are so in alignment with your future spouse's personality. Like, of course they would they would be the one to make you really good food that's like super healthy. We were talking before about them being a good cook, right? Because I think there's also an energy here of your future spouse being really attractive and being really mindful of their physical appearance and, you know, doing what they have to do in terms of self-care to maintain that level of physical attractiveness. And I think that it's going to make you smile how much effort they put into looking good for you, you know, because if you think about it, it's kind of disrespectful to roll out of bed and say, okay, honey, I'm ready for our date. And you're looking at them like you haven't brushed your hair, you haven't showered, you, like, especially if you're someone who's put a lot of effort into their appearance. And it's not that you want to try to look perfect or, you know, achieve some sort of beauty standard. It's not that. But it's just that I care and love enough. I care about you and I love you enough to want to show up as my best self for you. I want to look good for you. I want you to not be embarrassed to have me standing next to you with, you know, like rumpled hair, looking a mess, looking and smelling like I just rolled out of bed. Like, no. So I think that's gonna make you smile how much effort your future spouse puts into their appearance for you, you know, like I think it's gonna make you feel good. I think that is definitely part of like preparing for a date, you know, because I think that's gonna continue even when you're married, that they want to look nice on your date nights, you know, like they're not going to take you for granted is what I'm trying to say. They're not gonna get lazy and sloppy and, you know, wear clothes that haven't been washed in 2 weeks, you know, gross stuff. They're not like that. And I think also there's something there about them making you breakfast, packing you lunches, because again, like they're gonna do like they're pretty over the top. Like if they do something, they're gonna do it right. That's just their energy. That's just how they are. And I think it's definitely going to make you smile how just the way in which they love you and that continuous effort they put into the relationship doesn't ever seem like it's diminished in any way. You know, like I think that they kind of treat you like they did when they were chasing you. Like they always treat you kind of like they are trying to get your attention. Like you know how people are on their best behavior when you're getting to know them and when you're in the talking and early stages of dating. People are on their best behavior. And if you don't like how someone is treating you when you're in the talking early dating stages, when you're supposed to be in the honeymoon phase, you're definitely not going to like how they treat you later on down the road, right? Like if that's their best sucks. So, you know, that's when people are supposed to be putting forth the best possible version of themselves, right? So if someone doesn't even care to try to impress you or show that they're putting in effort or anything like that, you know they're going to treat you pretty poorly later on. You know, like if you feel disrespected in the early stages of dating, it's all downhill, right? Like the further it goes, the worse they're gonna treat you because they've already shown that's who they are. And so I think that the fact that your future spouse puts in so much effort into the relationship, just like they are still trying to date you, even when you're married, is gonna make you feel like a queen or a king. It's gonna make you feel so special. Like, this person's not taking me for granted. This person is treating me like they're trying to get a second date with me. Like, you know, like they still look at me like they did the first time. Because there's a lot here about physical attraction, like way more than pile 1 and pile 2. There is so much here about mutual physical attraction. And there's not to say there's not more than that, but that's just something that I think is a huge factor in your marriage. And That's not to say that, like, as you get older, you're gonna love this person less or they're gonna love you less, but it's just more like, we could be married 20 years and I'm still gonna look at you like I did the first time I saw you across that crowded room, you know? Like, it's not gonna change. It's not gonna change. And so they do. They put in a lot of effort. You know, I think they're always going to be chasing your attention. Like, they want to be the apple of your eye. Like, they want to be center stage in your life. You know, like, they want to be the main character in your life. They want to be, you know, opposite leading roles. Like, that's how they kind of view this marriage. Like, we're both the stars of this movie. Like, you know, you're my love interest and I'm yours, and we are the stars, we are center stage, and that's it, lights on us. Like, that's how your future spouse acts. It's very funny. Yeah. Okay, I think I've gone on and on enough about this. Let's look at your final oracle card here. We have rituals. Steady yourself with simple rituals. Do the dishes, fold the laundry, water the plants, make a cup of tea, and let wisdom sneak up on you. Remember how I said I felt like your future spouse would take on the bulk of the daily sort of responsibilities of running a household, and they would basically just expect praise in response. Like, they just want you to hype them up and recognize their efforts. And I think if you want to connect to your future spouse's higher self, if you want to be able to, like, send messages to them in that way before you actually meet them, if that's something that you believe in, something that you think is possible, this would be the way to do it. Okay? Because your future spouse does these sorts of things. Like, they are pretty domestic. Like, I don't care what their gender is, okay? Like, we're none of the, like, traditional gender roles here, okay? They are very domestic. You know, I think they treat their home the way that they treat their physical body. Like, appearances are very important to them, and that extends, and beauty is very important to them, and that extends into their household. Like, they want their surroundings to be beautiful and nice and clean and smelling good, just like they want to be attractive and smelling good and put together and polished, you know? And so they do these things. And so if you practice mindfulness and you kind of clear your mind and you're engaged and fully present in some of these activities, I think it would help you receive downloads from your future spouse's higher self and speak to them, you know, psychically before you actually meet them in the 3D. Now, if you're like, that's a little bit too weird for me, these are just good ways to calm yourself down and to center yourself and ground yourself, and you'll get some wisdom from the universe. You know, you'll have a sudden epiphany while you're folding the laundry, you know, like that kind of thing. Something will occur to you that hadn't occurred to you before, and could put you on the right path towards meeting your future spouse. So, all right, this has been such an odd reading, like, overall. Like, all three groups have been so different than what I expected. And I feel like that always happens when I try to do just like cute little readings. Spirit's like, nah. we're gonna make the messages a lot deeper than that. All right, let's end with a love token from your future spouse's higher self, pile 3. Even the fact that this is pile 3 makes me think of, like, the 3 of Cups and, like, celebration. Like, your future spouse loves a good party, and they're the type of people who would love a theme party. And, you know, like how workplaces will have, like, oh, dress up like this on this day for this, like, employee appreciation week or something. Your future spouse would be so into that. I don't know why that message just came up, but your future spouse would be the type of person who's, like, really into pep rallies and, like, sporting events and, like, that kind of thing. All right, So we have, of course we have this, good for a long massage. Yeah, there's a very physical, sensual element to your marriage. I will say that. There's so much heat and passion and mutual attraction here. And that's kind of funny to me because I think in the very beginning, you kind of, like when you first meet your future spouse, I think you kind of try to push them away because you think they're too attractive and you're like, you're too good looking, you'll break my heart, get away from me. Like, I think that's your energy towards them. Like, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. Like, you know, I think you're like, no, they're too good looking. And yeah, so anyway, pile 3, this was your reading. I hope it resonated. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had as much fun as I did. So please consider liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the notification bell so you always know when I upload. A huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel, and I will see you guys in my next one. Take care, pile 3.